Imagine, just for a moment, how immersive the desktop experience on VRChat would be if you could move your arms. With VRChat coming out with its MOBA alpha, it had me thinking about other games that also offer a VR, mobile, and desktop experience, and how they stack up to VRChat. And one of the first things I thought about was Roblox, but this video isn't about that. And then the second thing I thought of was Rec Room. And although Rec Room and VRChat are very, very different platforms that have evolved very differently over time, I think it's very obvious that they do have a lot of similarities. But one thing that Rec Room does amazingly that I could only wish VRChat could have one day is the improved desktop experience that it offers. Being able to not only raise your hands up, but also being able to move them around freely, being able to high-five people, wave, and so on. For anyone who isn't familiar, this is how it works in Rec Room. In Rec Room on desktop, you can either push Q or E to hold both of your hands up flat, individually or together. Or left and right click will put your hands up but at a little bit more of a pointing forward position. While you're holding one of these buttons, you're also able to move your mouse around and move your hands either one by one or together, as you can see in the background of this video. This lets you wave, point, play patty cake, and so much more. But let's get back to the video. I just needed to explain this just in case anyone watching didn't understand. I understand that with VRChat's current desktop gesture system, something like this could definitely get kinda complicated really fast. For anyone who might not know, currently in VRChat you can use gestures by pressing your left or right shift key combined with F1 through F8 to cycle through all of your possible gestures. Of course, there is something players can currently do that is similar if they really need to raise their arm for some reason in desktop, but it's so very, very limited. And that's picking up your personal mirror, because nobody else can see this object. To everyone else, it's just like you're raising your arm, but it's not very good for anything. Although I do feel like VRChat may need some kind of solution similar to Rec Rooms, but not an exact copy, in order to make this look correct, as VRChat models usually have arms. Without arms, it really doesn't matter what your hands are doing in the game. But with arms, you have a lot more to worry about in making things look normal. I think that you wouldn't really want your arms to look too wonky because it might actually end up doing the opposite of what I think would be the intention behind something like this in the first place, and actually worsen or ruin the immersion completely by making your arms break during certain movements. I would imagine that you would only want something like this in order to increase the quality of interactions within the game. Obviously, it could never increase that quality and immersiveness to the point that VR offers, but it could definitely be an improvement over what we have now, having your arms stuck to your sides at all times. There are two main ways that free hand movement in desktop VRChat would hugely improve the experience for desktop players. A hand control system like this would make walking up to groups of players feel way more natural. Being able to wave at them, high five, gesture with your hands, point at something, or just be able to kind of talk with your hands for more impactful speech. Another way that this would be super beneficial for VRChat is increased avatar interactions with dynamic bones. A lot of avatars have fizz bones and dynamic bones, allowing other players to interact with avatars via interactions. Whether something happens when you pat someone's head, boop their nose, or push a button on their avatar, desktop players can't currently meaningfully interact with any of these things in the game. Of course, there's also a few things that I could think of that would be problematic in VRChat with a system like this. One problem that a system like this could definitely have is having trouble with overly complicated keyboard and mouse controls for controlling your hands and gestures. One reason Rec Room is able to get away with this on desktop and console is that they don't have a gesture system at all, so it's able to stay very, very simple. Another concern I would have for a system like this in VRChat is that it's very difficult to imagine a system like this working correctly outside of bipedal human-like avatars. In Rec Room, everyone has the same basic model, a body with a head and two floating hands. But in VRChat, you can be literally anything. Maybe it could just work like hands and arms in VR, where you'd just be able to move any part of the avatar that is assigned those parts in Unity. Of course, this whole video is just an idea that I had, and a bunch of reasons why I think something like this could be really game-changing. But honestly, I can't really ever see something like this being added to VRChat. It is, however, always fun to imagine how a game that you love could be different.